Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2. We are back with our ratty friends, the Skaven, and we are taking the Skaven up against Norsca. So Norsca, fairly recently, not like really recently, but fairly recently got reintroduced, and people are kind of getting used to having them back in the multiplayer community, so I thought it would be interesting to show off a battle against them. So I have taken quite a wide Skaven army, which is actually very common with the Skaven, and I think generally a good idea. I've got Skaven slave spears on the flank just to serve as chaff. In the front, I have two storm vermin with swords and shields. These units in a lot of matchups don't do fantastic, but I think against Norsca, which has a lot of aggressive, hard-hitting, but lightly armored infantry, storm vermin sword and shield with their I'm actually going to go back to slow motion because I forgot we'd started off early with some skirmishing. With their heavy armor and good melee stats, storm vermin with sword and shield are really good against marauder berserkers and similar units, which Norsca always brings. I don't think I've ever seen a Norsca army without a few marauder berserkers, and almost always the brutes of the hound, the regiment of renown marauder berserkers. Although I don't think I see them in this army. I'm trying to remember. It's been a few days since I fought this battle. Yeah, I guess not. Just regular berserkers, but a lot of them. So I've got those. In my back line, to serve as protection against skirmishers and skinwolves, I have two storm vermin halberds, one of which is hidden in the woods. Storm vermin halberds are not great stats, but they do have a very significant bonus versus large that kicks their melee attack up to 39, which is respectable against large units. And they do a lot of armor-piercing damage, so against armored skinwolves and such, they can do pretty solid work. I have one warp lightning cannon, one poison wind globadier, three Skaven slave slingers. Yeah, one of them is actually advancing to shoot at those marauder horsemasters. A couple of clan rat spears with shields in the back, and two units of rat ogres. I love rat ogres. They're a fantastic unit. I think they're actually very well balanced. They're not the strongest unit around, but they only cost 800. And for 800, you can definitely justify a monster like this. High charge bonus, pretty decent speed, frenzy, high armor-piercing damage, and general weapon strength, immune to psychology, they cause fear. They're good. They're good stuff. My leadership corps is very small and simple. I have Tretch Craventail, who is, of course, the slippery infantry anti-large lord. He's got Stay Here, I'll Get Help, which gives him Unspottable. Stand or Die, Verminous Valor, and the Lucky Skullhelm, which anytime he's losing gives him damage resistance and speed, plus the Tretch's Raiders ability, so anytime anybody's winning near him, they start to win more. And I have one Plague Priest, and I have brought on that Plague Priest Pestilent Birth to spawn Plague Monks, Plague, Vermintide, Bless with Filth, Pestilent Breath, and the Plague Rash, which lowers enemy speed anytime I'm casting. So that's my army. My opponent has some Marauder Horsemasters over on this flank and some more over on this flank, so two units of them. He does have some Armored Skinwolves, which I kind of anticipated, one on that flank and then one back here in the back. He has Wulfric the Wanderer on his Chaos Steed, and Wulfric has brought the Sword of Torgold for extra weapon damage, the Hunter of Champions, Fight or Die, and Seafang. He's got two units of wolves, Norscan Warhounds, just regular old Warhounds. 5 units of Marauder Berserkers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 units of regular Marauders, so very aggressive, very infantry heavy, small skirmish contingent, not a whole lot else. He's obviously planning to just kind of rush in and crush me beneath the weight of his infantry. So we've got the Warp Lightning Cannons firing at the Skinwolves, and Skinwolves are a fantastic target for Warp Lightning Cannons, because watch. There. See that? 1 hit, 3 kills. The models don't have enough HP to survive a lightning cannon hit, so they're gone. They don't get to regenerate. They're just dead. Up here, the infantry lines are beginning to collide already. My Storm Vermin Halberds came out of the woods to zone out these guys and then pushed past them. They're still in the back. I'm keeping an eye on them with my Rat Ogres. Up in the front, I just dropped a Plague on these Marauder Berserkers, and you can see their HP is dropping pretty quickly. That one cast of Plague, when put in the right spot, does a ton of damage. So those Marauder Berserkers lost a huge fraction of their HP very quickly to that Plague, even though I didn't get all that many kills for it. The Skaven Slave Spears are, of course, dying, but that's fine. My Warp Lightning Cannon is trying to shoot over here. We've actually routed those Armored Skinwolves with the Warp Lightning Cannon, and now we're trying to take out that version as well, that unit, rather. If we look around in the back, We can see these Marauder Berserkers are caught up on some heavily armored units that they are going to have trouble killing. We're dropping some anti-large fire from the Poison Wind Globadiers on those Skin Wolves. I'm going to go back into slow motion. I can't talk fast enough to keep up with all this. My front line is collapsing a little bit. I've lost my Skaven Slave Spears, and the Marauder Berserkers are into my Slingers, but I don't care. The Slingers are on guard mode. They exist only to die. Up here, my Stormbrewmen with Sword and Shield are actually doing quite well against Marauders and Marauder Berserkers. They're losing right now because they do have Wulfric the Wanderer behind them, and these units are buffed. But that will change shortly. Over here, the rest of my front line once again collapsed. Skaven Slave Spears are buckling, but these units took enormous damage from that Plague cast, so they're a lot weaker than they could be, and these Marauder Berserkers are currently getting hacked up by the Stormvermin Halberds, which do of course have that high armor. We've got a Sea Fang coming in. These armored Skin Wolves have charged into my Rat Ogres. My other Rat Ogres are moving to support them, and these Clan Rat Spears are going to collapse to support them as well. And right now my focus is on keeping the Warp Lightning Cannon alive, because that is my main anti-large tool in this army. And it's also my main anti-Wulfric tool. I do have Tretch rushing over here, and since Tretch has a pretty significant bonus versus large, he's actually really good against Wulfric. He has a bonus versus large of 25, which makes him extremely dangerous against large targets. Skaven Slave Spears are routing, but we're getting a ton of damage done on these armored Skin Wolves. I am about to lose a Rat Ogre, but swapping a Rat Ogre for an armored Skin Wolf is a trade I'll take any day of the week and twice on Sundays. We summoned some Clan Rats just in time to catch up these Marauder Berserkers that were trying to kill my cannon. They've now gone out of control. And Wulfric, look at Wulfric. Tretch came in and ruined him. He is gone, baby, gone. Tretch just rushed in and stabbed him to death with that anti-large armor-piercing damage. Very, very impressive. In the back, my Rat Ogres are pulling back into a defensive posture. The Skin Wolves are routed, and we're now throwing Poison Globes into the Marauder Horsemasters, who are about to run away. Over here, these Marauder Horsemasters are trying to sweep in, but a little too late. These Warhounds have been fended off by my Rat Ogres, and they're charging over here to take out these Skaven Slave Spears, sort of hunting units. I'm just sacrificing this partial unit of Rat Ogres now to drive the Marauder Horsemasters away. They can skirmish these guys to death very easily, and that's fine. Over here, the Skaven Slave Slingers are actually earning their keep. Rarely, as they rarely do, by putting fire onto these Marauder Berserkers, who with no armor and no shield, actually do take a lot of damage from even very, very weak missile units like this. Once again, the Warp Lightning Cannon definitely proving its worth, firing off some shots into the Marauder Horsemasters, and they take a ton of damage from that. So over here you can see, we've pretty much solidified the line. I say as the Marauders charge past my line to attack my artillery again. But once again, we've got some Clan Rat Spears right there, holding the line, preventing them from actually getting any damage done, and the Plague Priest is going to come back to help as well. These Marauder Horsemasters are getting into the Poison Wind Globadiers, but they're so damaged at this point and so low on leadership, they're not going to be able to accomplish much. My Rat Ogres are routing, but the Marauder Horsemasters have had their time wasted by having to deal with that. We're dropping a Bless with Filth over here to get these Clan Rats and Stormvermin Halberds to maybe finally polish off these units. And the Marauder Horsemasters are still getting blasted by Warp Lightning. I have a fairly big ball of infantry still left in the front line. My two Stormvermin Sword and Shield have done very, very well for themselves. And my Plague Priest is in there helping clean up these Berserkers and those Marauders, while my Skaven Slave Slingers move to try and get some more done. These Stormvermin Halberds have survived in the infantry fight and are chasing off some Marauder Berserkers. They are about to get attacked by these Skin Wolves, and they'll probably lose because there are so few of them left. But over on this side, this fight is actually wrapping up in my favor, although it may not look like it right at the moment. Those summoned rats have now dissipated. Those Marauder Horsemasters are about destroyed. My Rat Ogres are starting to come back over there. With Wulfric having been dead for so long, enemy morale is a little bit fragile on everybody except, of course, the Berserkers, who don't suffer from morale problems as such. Marauder Horsemasters are charging into the back of my Stormvermin Halberds to wrap them up, but they don't quite... Yeah, they managed to get it done. They take a little bit more damage than they would probably like. Over here, those Marauder Horsemasters are actually going to run off the field, unless I'm mistaken, chased by Warp Lightning all the way. I forgot about those Skaven Slave Slingers. You can see we both have routed units all over the shop that are not being pulled back very effectively because, frankly, I'm not a great player. I mean, I make no excuses for that. Marauder Horsemasters finally going to get into the cookie jar, shut down my Warp Lightning Cannon, but it is too little, too late. At this point, army losses are going to start kicking in for the Norscan army, and that is all she wrote. So, that's the battle. This was a battle all about the Warp Lightning Cannon. Keeping the Warp Lightning Cannon alive versus attacking it, despite only inflicting 46 kills, that Warp Lightning Cannon was very much central to my strategy, and did most of the important damage, I would say. The Warp Lightning Cannon effectively shut down one of the armored skin wolves before it ever reached my lines. It then did a very good job driving off the Marauder Horsemasters, as well as putting a lot of damage on Wulfric before Tretch charged in to finish off the job. My infantry line, all of these units basically existed just to get in the way. Traditional Skaven infantry tactics, which they did very well. The Stormvermin Sword and Shield also did extremely well. Standing in the front line, they actually carved their way through a couple units of Marauders and Marauder Berserkers, and really sort of acquitted themselves. I did not put those chevrons on them. They earned those chevrons during the battle, if I recall. The Skaven Slave Slingers, kind of more of the same, an extension of these units, with the exception of the fact that they could do good damage against Marauder Berserkers. It might be valuable in this matchup to bring some higher quality slingers, especially since the Night Runner and Gutter Runner slingers just recently got buffed with higher damage. I haven't really tested them since that buff. Before that, I know they weren't really worth much in my opinion. I'll see. I'll try them out again. But frankly, it's hard to compete with Skaven Slave Slingers just because they are so cheap. You can buy literally 3 of them for the price of the next least expensive Slinger unit. So, I mean, these 3 units are 600 gold in total. They're less than 1 infantry unit on the other side. Or 2 of them are less than 1 Marauder. In any case, it was a very interesting battle. I was very happy with Tretch. He was in the fighting for a lot of that battle and took very, very little damage. I was very happy with the Plague Priest, of course. The Plague Priest summoned a couple of units. I'm not sure if I talked about that except for the one. He summoned a second unit to intercept another charge on the cannons sometime in the middle of the battle. Very satisfied with him, and that Plague was very, very good. Plague is actually a really powerful ability if you can drop it on a blob that's locked in melee. And the Rat Ogres definitely did their job. They weren't involved in heavy fighting for most of the time, but they did an excellent job of screening out the enemy cavalry and skinwolves in the back line, and they managed to clean up the other skinwolf that the cannon didn't shoot down with the support of the Poison Wing Globadiers. Although, frankly, I think those Globadiers probably did more friendly fire damage to my one Rat Ogre than they did damage to the armored skinwolf. But in any case, very interesting battle. I find a lot of my Skaven battles tend to be like this. The Skaven have a strong tendency, in my opinion, to sort of stand on the defensive and force the enemy to come to them. And I think they do it, I mean, it's almost dwarf tactics, but they do it better than the dwarves do. Because they have more mobility and a wider variety of units to use in order to hold their defensive positions. But yeah, forming defensive positions around the Warp Lightning Cannon, that seems to happen very, very commonly. And I think it's, honestly, I think bringing a piece of artillery from most armies that have access to artillery is often good tactics. I remain a little bit surprised that I don't see it happen more. But especially for the Skaven, bringing a Warp Lightning Cannon in most matchups is a good idea. Not all. Like, against dwarves, maybe not, because dwarves can shoot it down very, very easily. Against elves, a little bit risky, but in most matchups, I would say bringing a Warp Lightning Cannon is a good idea. So in any case, thanks for watching. More of this will be coming. I may have mentioned this before, but I'm actually upgrading my computer, finally, for real this time. And so more Warhammer Total War will be coming as it becomes easier for me to record. My current box is a little bit vintage and struggles slightly to record this game at acceptable quality and without framerate glitches and such. But as I get my gear brought up into the second decade of the 21st century, we'll see more of this coming. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.